Dear students, I continue here my explanation of Ode on a Gracian Urn. As you know that we are in the poetic world of Keats, so there is mesmerizing pictures and beautiful carvings that he perceives through his mind, through his imagination, and we saw that how melodious picture is created, beautiful images of God, goddesses, men, women, or of natural wall. It is described by Keats very beautifully. So we have completed three stanzas, and now I take from the stanza number 4, and in this one particularly he describes a picture that he perceives over the surface layer of the Gracian urn, that there is a procession, people of a village, of town, they are going for a ritual and this is the ritual of sacrifice. So you know that when we talk about sacrifice, it is especially in terms of God and goddesses. I take here lines and then I'll explain. Who are these coming to the sacrifice? So it's a rhetorical question. To what green altar, O mysterious priest, leaden thou that heifer lowing at the skies, and all her silken flanks with garland dressed? So as you know that Keats here gives description one by one, the beautiful images that he perceives over the surface layer of the Gracian urn. So one picture he has perceived, he sees there over the surface of the Gracian urn, where people of the village, they are going towards a procession, they are moving towards a place where they can make sacrifice. So poet says that where are they going actually for this ritual? Sacrifice can be taken as one of the ritual, as one of the culture. So you know that sacrifices are always made in terms of deities, as in our culture also. In Indian culture it happens that we have 9 goddess, and during the 9 auspicious days of Navratri, in our culture sacrifices are made. And in many other temples, like in Assam there is Kamakhya temple, and there was tradition of this sacrifice. So I mean to say that you may trace here similarities with your Indian culture and Greek culture, and poet is having in his mind this Greek culture. So he just talks about that culture, that how sacrifices were made. So from here poetry becomes more philosophic in nature. So priest is called as mysterious priest because nobody knows the purpose. Actually we know that we offer this goats and cows and other animals, they are sacrificed. Now in India it is replaced by coconut. So coconut is symbolic of that sacrifice, and through which if we go to any of the 9 goddess and we sacrifice, and it is believed that our wish will be completed. So same was the case of Greek culture and all. But if you look after the reason or you look after the surety behind these sacrifices, nobody knows. So here Keats called to priest as mysterious priest, because why and how these sacrifices are done, there is no certitude, there is no certain picture, and it is all matter of faith and belief that God and goddesses, they exist. And as we become more philosophic and sometimes more rational, then we say that there is existence, God exists as concept. So all these things, all these views are there. So Keats calls priest as mysterious. And you know that always in our Indian culture, little girls are worshipped, those who are of 10 to 11 years or less than that. So the animal that is chosen here for sacrifice, it is heifer. That means the female cow, child cow, right? So you may see or you may trace the similarity between the two cultures that I am time and again making here, like between your Indian culture and Greek culture. So it shows the pious nature of that particular animal. The age is related with the virginity. So with flanks with and all her silken flanks with garland dressed. So you may see that whenever sacrifices are made of any animals, then they are very decorated, garlanding of the cows and garlanding of the courts. So the same picture he describes here, that how heifer is garlanded and people of that village, they are moving one by one towards this procession. So we may say that sacrifice, one of the most important aspects of any culture. So is the case of Greek world, and you may correlate your Indian culture here also. With little town by river or sea shore, or mountain built with peace citadel. So poet just beautifully imagines here that how this town, the village, it is situated at the seashore. So you know, seashore, that means sea that is filled with water, and here water is not simply water, or river is not simply river. Dear students, I keep on referring in my lectures that every river can't be Ganga and every river can't be Thames. That means river is the source of regeneration, and these rivers especially which I mentioned here, they have their different origins, just as we know that how Lord Shiva, he controls Ganga, and this is how you know, the whole mythology and the origination is available to us of Ganga. So Ganga is a deity to us, river is deity to these people, right? So water is the force, regenerating force and power. And not only this, with water ritual is associated, and this ritual is associated with the culture, and culture is associated with history. So ultimately these sacrifices and these rituals through which we are going of a country, of a nation, it creates history, and this is how mythology gets created. And one day we become, one day for us it becomes a matter of astonishment that was it really existing in our culture. So it becomes a matter of myth and mythology, right? So I said that rituals lead us to culture, culture leads us to history, and this is how beautiful histories are created. And as far as the history of the Grecian world is concerned, Greek history is written by the Sylvan historian. So is emptied, or mountain built with peaceful citadel. So this village is situated near the seashore, and natural carving and natural peace is there perceived. So you know that poet has already mentioned about Sylvan historian, that how history is written with the objects of nature, and then poet refers to the visibility of a place that is on mountain, and he calls it as the citadel. So people of this town, when they are going for this procession, when they are going to make this sacrifice, they are going through the citadel. So one by one they are getting disappeared from the eyes of the poet. So this village is empty, this town is empty, and this citadel is also empty. So it is emptied of this folk, this pious mourn. Poet says that the entire picture that is visible to me of village and of citadel, it is completely empty. And this emptiness is related with the pious activity, or the word that he has made use of here, it is pious mourning. So mourning is the appropriate time when most of the time with empty stomach, we in our Indian culture also go for the performance of rituals, for performing the fast activities and for worshipping God and goddesses. So this emptiness is here taking us slowly and gradually in the lap of eternity, because ultimately at the end of day, empty you and empty me. So nothing with which you come and nothing with which you go. So emptiness is here highlighted of these places, citadel and village. And little town, thy streets for evermore will silent be, not a soul to tell why thou art desolate can ever return. So he says that now the picture which I perceive here over this Gracian urn, not a single member of that village is here available to tell me, to tell us, to tell those people who are reading this poetry, who are looking at the art of the Greek world, that where all these people have gone. So poet speculates, and poet's speculation is actually it is his imagination. So Keats says that they all have gone perhaps for the liberation, purpose of liberation, because the idea of liberation, that means the idea of mukti or freedom, once you get liberated you do not come back. So all are liberated. That means this place, this Gracian urn is itself having power of this canonization. It has power of liberation. So this art is not only portrayal of the human activities and human life, rather how art here leads us towards eternity that can be realized in this stanza. So poet is becoming very philosophic from here, and of course the role of beauty in every word of Keats is available. Now I move ahead and I take the last stanza, and then he says that, O Attic shape, fair attitude with braid of marble, men and maidens overwrought, with forest branches and the trodden weed, thou silent form thus teases out of thought as doth eternity. So Keats here addresses to this Gracian urn as Attic shape. So ultimately he addresses to the urn that, O urn, fair attitude. Fair attitude, that means again here concept of beauty comes, and the attitude must be fair. Another thing, that the ideas, the arts and the whole carving, the whole beauty of this Gracian world that is described by poet, if you have fair attitude, only then you can understand these ideas with note of positivity. So and another thing which poet here writes here literally, that with braid of marble, men and maidens overwrought. So poet describes and he expects from his readers that readers should perceive the carvings of men and women, of god and goddesses, or of the natural world with a kind of fair attitude. And when you have this fair attitude, then actually beauty lies in the eyes of beholder. So it might be that all these things were, all these visits were done before Keats by many other poets, by many other being and person. But why Keats is only able to write poetry with the help of his imagination on the memories of his Greek culture, Greek art? Because Keats is having those eyes, that fair attitude, that nature is in Keats, inbuilt nature in Keats, through which he is able to perceive the beauty available in the Greek world and culture, and that sharpens he sharpens that with his imagination. So he says that marble, men and maidens. So as we all know that when you have to talk about the superiority of the stone, marble is the superior kind of a stone, or marble is achieved after many struggle. So eternity or art is not that your daily food or daily bite, that you are sitting and you are just engaged in your physical act and physical activities, and out of sudden you will create the art of marble standard. So marble suggests what? The superiority of a stone, that means the superior nature of literature and art. So the beautiful carvings, beautiful men and women, they are there, and they are beautiful because of the fair attitude only. So once again I repeat that beauty is possible only when your intention is fair, only when your eyes are able to perceive beauty in anything. Moving ahead, we look at the line number 3 of this last stanza. Then he says that forest branches and trodden weed. So as you know that poet is time and again referring the history that is written by natural historian. So he says that there is visibility of such a picture over this Athene, over this Gracian urn, where the forest is carved. Forest, that means here naturally he talks about natural surroundings or the world of art. And trodden weed, that means sometimes not sometimes but always unwanted flower and plants, they grow in the nature. In fact, literal meaning is not here concerned. The two types of forest are always available to us. One is the inside forest and another is the outside forest. So what happens that the inside forest is to be interpreted here with fair attitude. That means the nature, the flowers and flora and fauna, the greenery of your heart, that is your inside journey. It must be continued. It must grow continuously. in against of the outer forest. So outer forest is actually replete with, or it is filled with all those problems which may create hurdle, or which may create burden in your over your mind, so that you stop growing. So meaning to say that, I repeat here once again, that two types of forest can be taken here. One is your inner growth, and another forest, that is the outer world, the world of corruption, world, the entire society, which may create problem in the growth of your inner beauty. So inner beauty is most important along with this outer growth. Thou silent form dost tease us out of thought as doth eternity. So you know that poet talks about visibility of such space over the surface layer of the Gracian urn, and that is the silent space. Silence is what? Silence takes us beyond the thought, beyond the mortal thought, I should say. So silence is here described as with note of eternity. And let me tell you that word is not having power to tell what is there in the silence. So whenever we talk about mysticism, mystical world, God and goddesses, about greatest philosophies, we make use of words, we make use of logos. Logocentrism comes there. But let me tell you at the same time that when you go to the climax of this mysticism, all these words, they fail, and at the end what exists, it is the existence of silence. So again, absolute negation is absolute affirmation. If your mind is having this power of understanding silence, that means you have understood, you have understanding of eternity. So silence here is note of eternity. Here I may say that poet, or every such kind of poetry, wants to be philosophic in nature, and this is how philosophy wants literature. And whenever there is confluence of the two, automatically it becomes musical. So literature, music and philosophy, literature and music, they come together. So this combination is the rarest kind of the combination which we may perceive at one place, and this is the beautiful example where we perceive music, philosophy and literature, three things together. Cold pastoral, when old age shall this generation waste, thou shalt remain in midst of other woe. So again, poet moves ahead and he takes here picture of the cold pastoral. Cold pastoral, why? Because it is the natural world. So pastoral world comes in the reference again and again. And here some of the carvings that poet perceives, it's of the dead bodies, or it is of the dead ashes, because urn is ultimately containing the ashes. So a poet here talks that in the art form, the moment the picture of death is portrayed, what happens that this death is also immortalized. So in fact this art inspires to John Keats to write about death positively, and this positivity is about death is what? That death is not actually our end, rather death is our liberation, or death brings liberation. Death opens new chambers, new doors of our another life, and that is life after life. So Keats here takes, seeing the picture of the cold images in the Gracian urn, death very positively, and here he says that when time is most mighty, and time, it keeps on working over generation after generation, that means over us, and when old age shall this generation waste, thou shalt remain. So we are young and we will be old, and at that time also this cold pastoral, the form in which the dead bodies are portrayed, the form in which young men and women they are portrayed, they are going to be there and they will remain same forever. So time is practiced on us, and generation after generation we are growing grey and old, but still art is going to be there, and that art where the dead bodies are portrayed. So in fact poet wants to say here that death is the ultimate truth of life, death is the fact of life, and thou shalt remain in the midst of other woe. So this art is, which is source of immortality, or which may teach us the lesson of silence, which may make us understand eternity, that what is eternity and what is ephemeral in nature, what is temporal in nature. This art has only power to teach us. In this case, he says that then ours a friend to man to whom thou sayest, beauty is truth, truth beauty, that is all a know on earth and all a need to know. So he said that this art is friendly to men. This art is very, congenial to we human beings. Why it is congenial to we human beings? If you take a glance of stanza number 1 to stanza number 5, you may see that earlier very romantic description and mesmerizing pictures like the wishes of the young hearts are portrayed there, and how the youth is glorified. Then slowly and gradually he becomes philosophic and he enters into the old age also, portrayal of the old age also. So this art has arrested in its world complete human world or complete human life. So it is very friendly to us, very friendly to we human beings, to whom thou sayest. And the lesson or the philosophy which this art wants to teach, or which we should understand, it teaches that beauty is truth, truth beauty, that is all. Nothing is true in this world. All are short-lived. All are for short span of life. Only beauty is truth. Now, which kind of beauty is truth? The beauty that is not perishable in nature, the beauty that contains goodness, the beauty that holds morality, the beauty that incorporates in its world the idea of otherness of the other. So beauty lies in your action. Beauty is there in your truthful attitude, and that beauty is only truth. And if something is truth, naturally it is beautiful. So Satyam Shivam Sundaram, the idea that is Satya is Shiv, that is good, that is virtue, that is what all the positivities of life that can be realized through beauty, and it is the only truth. So it is only beauty. So Satya hi Shiv hai, Shiv hi Sundar hai. So this is the only thing that is going to remain with us, and rest of the thing will be perished. So these two words, beauty and truth, they are like the two sides of one coin. And if you have beauty, I mean to say that needless to mention that if you have beauty, truth will be always there with you. So if there is truth, that means it is always beautiful. So if you can have this virtue, can goodness, if you may overcome all the evils of your life, evil forces of life, then you have sense of beauty, and that is your truth, that is your that is the ultimate truth. So the ultimate truth is the everyone's truth, right? Ultimate truth is the everyone's truth. So we know that the truth of the Almighty is the truth for all of us, and Almighty wishes for us what? Almighty wishes for us to have overall goodness. He wants to establish humanism. He wants this world like divine world. So divine world is what? Divine world is metaphor of truth and beauty. So poet says that this art is more friendly, most friendly to the human world, because it contains this message of beauty and truth, truth and beauty, a know on earth and all a need to know. This is something which is lacking here on this earth, and that poet says that can be understood very easily with this art, and this is the only our need and requirement. So Keats very beautifully in this poem Ode on a Gracian Urn has summarized the concept of beauty and truth, which I have already explained in my introductory classes. Yet there is any confusion, you come and ask questions in the comment box of this YouTube video. You are most welcome. Thank you.